Welcome to the very first Discovering MLS Fan Chat, where I'll be talking to fans of MLS teams and finding out what makes them special and unique. Now, Nashville SC is a team in the Western Conference who finished 5th in the league this year, 2022, and is home to the league's current Golden Boot winner, Hany Mukhtar. This was the club's third season in MLS, and today I am speaking to Nashville fan and YouTuber Matt Green, aka Uncle Mads, about all things Nashville. Check it out. So welcome everybody, I am here with Matt, super YouTuber and Nashville fan, and we're going to have a brilliant chat about all things MLS and especially Nashville SC. Sorry, I keep wanting to say FC because that's what we do in England.
Yeah.
But SC is what it is, Nashville SC. So first of all, give us a bit of background on Nashville, how you got into it, where the clubs come from, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, it's funny you want to call it Nashville FC. It actually started as Nashville FC in its very earliest days. It started as like a fan-supported club here in the area. I think it was like some former players who were looking for a way to keep their careers going, and there was also just some local fans who kind of find a local team here because we've had some level semi-pro teams here over the years, like the Nashville Metros back when I was a kid with a team in the area, and just some local fans, some local former players wanted to keep it going, and so they formed a team that got entered in some of our lowest level semi-pro professional leagues here. Started as Nashville FC, kind of grew a following, got to be kind of almost like a cult type thing that was like kind of building up. I'm sad I missed out on the earliest days of it because I was living in Murfreesboro at the time, but by the time I started to hear about it, it had gained enough traction, it had got enough interest. Nashville as a city was growing hugely as a tourist destination, as a place where people were moving to, that it became a place that pro sports teams were looking for, and some investors started looking at it and wanting to maybe look at us as a potential future home of an MLS team. And so they took the next steps where they invested into the original fan-owned team, moved it into the USL, which is our second-tier division here in America, rebranded it at that time as Nashville Soccer Club, Nashville SC. I assume that probably was some kind of trademark deal to try to make sure whoever was going to own it moving forward had like the same trademarks and no issues with the original ownership group, but they were all kind of partnered. I mean, there's still people who were from that original, I think it was 2000, somewhere in like 2013, 2014 range when they started Nashville FC, who are still with the club to this day in various capacities as it's moved up and grown and grown. So it really was a homegrown, grassroots, started from the ground up thing where it grew, and then Nashville was also growing, and we started getting rumblings that MLS, was looking to expand, wanting to go up to as many as 30 teams. We were a hot market with our growth there, and with it becoming one of like they call them an it city here in America, where it's a lot of people are moving there, a lot of people are visiting there, and so we had some good people with some local money. Our owner John Ingram saw it as an opportunity to invest, kind of give us a push that we needed to get us to that next level. So we moved into USL. MLS liked what they saw from us from that point forward, awarded us an MLS team. And now we're into the end of our third season in MLS and head into our third straight playoff appearance. It's pretty cool how it's grown from being a fan base thing into now we've, haven't quite got that last bit of winning the championship, but 3 straight playoff appearances over here. That's not something you see in leagues over here as much as you get, because there's a lot more parity and difference in who's going to win from year to year, whereas the top 5, 6, and 4 in the European leagues kind of mostly stay the same unless you get like a Leicester who bounces up out of nowhere and kind of shocks the world.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. No, that's one of my absolute favorite things about MLS. You look at the list of winners of the MLS Shield. It is, I think, out of the last 10 years, it's 8 different winners, and you think that is fantastic. That is excitement, rather than you've got the German league, and you always know who's going to be at the top of the league every season. This is absolutely fantastic. So, Nashville, I know, and most people I think know as a music city, but obviously there are sports franchises there as well. So was soccer always big there? Obviously you've talked about the team that grew up from roots there. Has there been a base for soccer there?
I think people are kind of surprised by how successful it's been out of the gate. There's a lot of predictions here, like for whatever reason soccer is perceived to be more popular on the West Coast and the Northeast here in America than it is maybe in the South. Everybody here thinks American football, high school football on a Friday night, college football on a Saturday, that soccer's not going to be as popular. So, I think people were surprised by how quickly it got over, but I think that's almost a testament to the club that they made it something that would attract soccer fans and non-soccer fans alike, because that's one thing you see at our games. You see so many people who are like, I've, never been to a soccer game in my life, watched a soccer game in my life, but I heard it was a fun thing to come to, so I wanted to check it out. And then they end up buying season tickets, or they end up finding ways to go to games all season long. So I think we had hit at the sweet spot where there was a good base of soccer fans here, but also there's just a lot of people here, like a lot of young people have moved here in the last, 10 to 15 years. So there's a young base of people who are more open to things like that, and kind of the old guard, that kind of I guess you'd call it the kind of stigma of Southerners who just like their football with their helmets and everything like that, is those people kind of phased out. But I mean, there's also like a generation like people whose like parents put them in soccer. Like my parents had me playing soccer my whole life, but they weren't necessarily soccer fans themselves. So they were just like, you play soccer, we'll watch you play. We like the sport like that. So you've got soccer moms and dads now who are soccer fans. So it's I think it's surprised some people how successful it's been here in Nashville. But I mean, the team's been good, and that's helped a lot. I think you see some of the other teams that have come into the league and kind of had slower starts, but making 3 straight playoff appearances, playing a pretty fun brand of soccer, having a great player like Hany Mukhtar. That'll get people in. That'll get people involved when it's exciting and fun like that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he was on my list of questions to bring up, because I mean, he's been a real sensation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you look at how those things come in, obviously the transfer system, and obviously you've got the draft over there that we don't have in Europe here. How does a player like that come from? And he was at Brøndby in Denmark previously, wasn't he, Mukhtar? And then he's come over here and come up to you guys and made such a massive impact. How does that transfer sort of happen on that? Do you know who's involved? Is it the MLS is it MLS who is organising that deal, or is it Nashville?
I think MLS, one of the few things I would complain about them is they try to make it as difficult as possible to understand what the transfer system is. We've got targeted allocation money, we've got guaranteed allocation money, we've got designated players, we've got international slots. There's so many more roster modifications and salary modifications than you see in other leagues around the world. So that is one thing. It's not as simple as like in Europe, where it's like, oh, this team has a lot of money, they can buy whoever they want, or this team got the budget they want. Typically you have 3 designated players, and that's a player you can pay a little bit more for than the others. There used to be a lot more restrictions on how you could bring players in and stuff like that, but now it's a little bit more open. So we have a general manager, which I guess would be the similar thing to like a sporting director or a director of football in Europe, where they build the team, they make the signings, and then our coach coaches the team. And so somewhere along the way, they identified Mukhtar as a player who could succeed in MLS. And also, I think the other thing they have to kind of think of is, would he want to come here at the same time? Because he's, MLS used to be kind of like had this bad stigma of being the retirement league, where the European players would come over here just to cash paychecks when they were a little bit past it. Still get a few of those every once in a while, but I think with our team, we knew Nashville wasn't like, you're not going to get a Gareth Bale to want to come move to Nashville. If he comes to America, he wants to go to LA, he wants to go to New York, he wants to go to Miami. So it was finding talented young players in Europe who were just open for a new challenge, open for a new situation, and wanting to try something. And from my perception, Mukhtar seemed like a player who kind of felt like he reached his ceiling in Europe. Like he now maybe has a chance to go back to Europe at a bigger team, but it felt like at the time maybe he wasn't getting the looks from bigger teams, from the German national team that he wanted. So coming to Nashville maybe was a bigger stage for him than playing in the Swiss or Swedish league that he was in before. So it kind of gave him a new stage, a new platform to show what he could do. And he's still relatively young. I mean, it went from being, we're really excited to have him, to there's already talks going into this offseason. We're paying him. He's one of our top players, but if certain teams in Europe come knocking, there's only so much you can do to keep a player like that. So I think it was finding a player like that who was willing to come and could fit in the league, because the league is kind of different. It's a little bit maybe more physical than some other leagues and stuff like that, but he's adapted well. So that's one thing I think they've done really well, is scouted players, found the players we need. Because we don't, coming into the first season, the people who follow MLS predicted us to be a disaster. They just, had no idea what we were going to look like. We didn't have any marquee signings. We brought in Walker Zimmerman, was good at the time, and he's moved up the rankings. Now he's playing for the U.S. national team since he's been with us. But they were kind of under the radar signings. They were looking for players that maybe weren't identified. And, I don't know exactly what the process of that is or how that works. That's above my pay grade, but I just feel like they were looking for talented players that maybe had maxed out what they could do at that moment in Europe that could come over here. Because we had a few others that have come over similarly in similar situations to Mukhtar. But I mean, that's one where, I mean, we struck absolute gold with him. We've made 3 straight playoff appearances, and there's no question it wouldn't have happened without finding him. As that's so, that was a diamond in the rough, a really good scouting. Just hats off to our scouting department for finding him and convincing him that this was a project to jump on board with.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic for an expansion team to be doing that. Like I say, first 3 seasons, you're hitting the playoffs 3 times. That's absolutely amazing. And you mentioned Zimmerman there, that's another one of your designated players, right?
Yeah, him and Hany have both been promoted up to designated players over the last 2 seasons from the performances based on that. So yeah, Hany Mukhtar, and I believe we have this third player who hasn't quite hit the same levels those two have. His name is Aki Loba. He came from Liga MX. He's a Ivory Coast international.
Wow.
Hasn't quite hit the ground running the way the other 2 have, but he was one we thought was maybe going to pan out a little bit better than he did. But he almost got boxed out by Hany Mukhtar because we kind of signed Hany Mukhtar to be more of an attacking midfielder.
Yeah,
and he's kind of evolved into like a striker more. He's more of an advanced player than he was supposed to be, and so he kind of boxed Ake Loba out because that was kind of, I think, what Ake Loba's role was supposed to be. It was supposed to be Hany Mukhtar was supposed to be the supplier. Ake Loba was supposed to be the goal scorer, and Hany Mukhtar just got the golden boot for the season. So I mean, it kind of worked out.
Well, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, 23 goals. That's the highest total in 3 or 4 years, I think, from back on the MLS. So he's really made a huge impact over there. I mean, do you think that's a decision that the manager's Gary Smith, right, the coach on the first team? Do you think in moving forward, a decision that Gary Smith has made, or is it just something that he's naturally progressed to? Do you think?
I think it was kind of a combination of both. Because if you look back at kind of the early lineups we've evolved from kind of like a back 4, then we kind of moved to a back 5 for a stretch, and he started out as more of a deeper player, like more of like a 10 or even an 8 at times. And just as he became the player who was getting the most goals for us, I think, it's kind of the weird logic we have with like our youth teams here, where it's like, well, if he's going to score, let's just put him up top. Because, even if sometimes it's like, you want your best player in the middle of the field where he can like distribute and help everybody else. But sometimes you're like, if he's going to score all the goals, let's just push him forward. So
yeah,
it was kind of a gradual thing where I think just Gary Smith recognized this is the guy that's getting the goals most consistently for us. Let's get him further up the field. So eventually kind of we play like he's still kind of, it's hard to really even define what position he plays because he's almost like a second striker. He's almost kind of still like a 10. We usually have like a more of a traditional target player that he kind of plays off of and kind of roams around. So it's kind of evolved into that where he used to be like more of a deeper line midfielder who would kind of start the attacks to where it's just like, he's scoring all the goals. Let's get him further up the field. Let's get him in the ball. Let's give him the ball inside the final third instead of him getting the ball at midfield and then having to run, 60 yards to get the goal. Let's just have him further up the field. It just made sense, I think, at a certain point in time.
Absolutely. When he's scoring all the goals and doing the job, then absolutely. And you mentioned earlier on that having a player like that is really bringing the fans in. People want to be there. People want to see him. The superstar, the Golden Boot winner. We've recently moved to a new stadium, which is a 30,000 capacity in Nashville. I think it's called the Geo. I can't remember what it's called. The
Geodis Park.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. 30,000 stadium. How is that going? Because obviously a stadium move is a hard thing to do. It's hard for the team to adapt to, for the fans to adapt to. How has it been? Yeah,
it's been, I mean, there's been some hiccups along the way because there's anytime you're going to move to a brand new facility like that, there's going to be some road bumps along the way. But I mean, it's currently the largest soccer specific stadium in North America.
Wow.
I believe we ended up being second or third in attendance in the league, and the only teams that were ahead of us were teams that still play in football stadiums, so they can hold more people than what we could hold. We're regularly getting 25 to 30 per game for attendance. The only minor hiccups were more infrastructure stuff around it, like I think they rushed it a little bit to get it ready for this season, so the parking wasn't as ideal. We don't have a great mass transit situation here in Nashville. We don't have any kind of like trains or anything like that can get you kind of around, so you kind of got to drive yourself or use like an Uber or a taxi to get pretty much everywhere. So that side of it's been a little bit of a hiccup where it's been kind of getting into the stadium, getting to the stadium has been a little bit trickier, but at the stadium, it's been a blast. Every game's great. Food and drink prices could be a little bit better, obviously, but I mean, the games themselves, it's a great stadium to watch games. I think they said the furthest seat in the stadium away from the field is only like 150 feet away from the field. It's like any seat in the stadium, you feel like you're right on top of the pitch. It is a great venue to watch games for sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I watched your video of you in the stadium. I don't think maybe your first time in there, and I recommend people go to your channel. I'll put the links up at the end of the video here to your channel. And it does look like a fantastic, an absolutely perfect stadium to watch football in. It's got the two tiers, but every seat there is designated towards. I suppose because it's a new stadium, they've got everything right in the fan experience of that. Yeah. So what else do you do in the stadium? Obviously, you get in some. Do you get beers there? Do you get sort of food and stuff within the stadium? What's the fan experience like?
Yeah, they've got I think they've got 7 or 8 like local vendors that have food stations in there. So my favorite one, we've got an empanada stand that's incredible called Chivanadas. They're incredible. There's a local pizza place that has a stand in there. There's a local barbecue place that has a stand in there. And then they have like your standard stadium food, hot dogs, chicken fingers, burgers, stuff like that. Beers, drinks, that's a big thing here. I mean, we're tailgating 2 hours before game, so it's not like we need any more beers once we get in there, but they're there if you need them. A little bit on the expensive side, so maybe drink a few extra before you get in, but they're there if you need them. I mean, our supporters section is incredible. It's like a kind of safe standing area. It's awesome. They're chanting and dancing and playing the drums the whole game long. I mean, it makes like everything there. You got everything you need there. We do have one side of the stadium that's like all what they call club seating, which is like all-inclusive food and drink. So they've got like interior areas that you can go into that has like a buffet that has like a spread of food, get some drinks there. So that's really great for like people that like aren't as into the match. It gives them a little extra something to go to there. Like my wife, you got to twist her arm to get her to go to a sporting event. And so when I'm like, hey, we've got all we can drink and all we can eat over there, and they've got nice cushy seats on that side, she's like, I'm in. Yeah. So it's got a little bit of something for everything. If you're like a hardcore fan that's just there for the match, it's a great venue to watch. If you're like a casual person who just wants to experience like a fun night out in Nashville, it's a good experience there too. So they really did a good job of putting kind of everything you could possibly want into the stadium.
Fantastic. That sounds absolutely awesome. I would love to go there. Well, so obviously being a relatively young club, you've I suppose traditions and rivalries and that sort of stuff. It's starting to emerge. Do you have things that you will regularly sing, like like other more established clubs will have a certain chance? Do you have that yet, or is it still emerging?
Yeah, I think the thing that'll be kind of like the next step for us is to kind of get our own chants over here in like America. It's one thing, and you'll see it like in like the little online groups for our fans. People are like, why don't we have better chants? Because like a lot of MLS teams like all have the same like 5 chants where it's just like, this is the chant, insert your team name, your team colors into the certain spots and adapt it. So like you don't have like the full on. I think like the next one for us, and it is going to be like getting specific player songs. Like we've only got we've got a new one that we've started kind of for Hany Mukhtar, but like, you watch I'm a Manchester United fan, and like every time a player has a good game, next game you go, the whole stadium singing a song about that player and stuff like that. So that's I think that's going to be the next evolution for us. But that's kind of across the board in the MLS thing, is where we haven't really figured out how to get all 30,000 people there in the stadium to be able to like sing the same song and sing the same chants. My mom went to a game earlier in the season. She even said that. She's like, I wanted to do the chants, but I didn't even know what they were, and we were too far away from the supporters group to really hear what they were. So it's like
that's great.
I think I don't know how exactly it happens there, but I know a big part of it is like, you're in the pubs, you're in the underground before the match, and everybody on the trains is all singing the songs together before they even get to the stadium. So the song before you even get there. We don't have that same thing. So like that's going to be the next step, is to get that. But we've got our chants. They're a little bit generic, but they're there. We've got a club anthem that's made by a local band called Judah and the Lions. I wasn't a huge fan of it at first. It's called I'll Never Give Up on You. I thought it was a little too trying to be a little bit like You'll Never Walk Alone, because it's kind of got that kind of mellow kind of, but it's grown on me since then. They always play that at the end of the song. The supporters and the players sing it together at the end of the matches, so it's been good. They really embrace like the music city of Nashville. We have like a guitar riff at the start of every match where like a local artist gets up there, does like a guitar solo on the stage before the match starts, referee blows a whistle, game starts. So stuff like that's going. The chants need a little work, but we definitely have a few things that are going for us that are pretty cool.
That's very, very cool. I like that. And I like the fact that it's always got to be a natural evolution, isn't it? And it's World Cup, and it's going to be local people that are doing that and contributing to it. Mm-hmm. So are there any natural rivalries? I know in other sports, often those sort of rivalries get adopted if it's come from another sport, and there's obviously a local rivalry. Those sort of things happen. Have you got that? Have you got a sort of fierce rival with a local rival or a team that you've had a past sort of beef with?
Yeah, it's been kind of hard for us because the way the MLS works is there's two conferences. So there's an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference. We were in the Eastern Conference for the first 2 seasons, and this season we got moved to the Western Conference. Next season we're supposedly moving back to the Eastern Conference, but it's because with the way expansion has worked to keep both sides balanced. They're trying to shift teams around, but we're like, there's a lot of fun banter between certain teams, but we didn't play those teams that much this season. FC Cincinnati has been one that we've had a lot of fun banter with. I got into trouble with some people up there because I posted a tweet at one point in time while I was up in Cincinnati that I didn't think their stadium was in the best part of town, and they just ripped me a new one telling me about how I was an idiot. I didn't know anything about Cincinnati, and none of them knew that I got that from somebody who lived up there. I was up there with a friend who lived up there, and they told me, it's like, over where the stadium is. The stadium's the worst part of town. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I got it from a Cincinnati person, but then they were just like, you know what you're talking about, all this stuff. But they've been a local rival because they're pretty close to us. They're about 3 hours up the road from us. Atlanta's probably the closest team to us. They're about 3-4 hours away. So once we get back in the Eastern Conference and we're playing them more, it'll pick up a little bit more. But we have some fun stuff between those kind of two teams, and a little bit with Orlando. I think Orlando's a team that came in and like, I don't know why, but they feel like they're a little bit high and mighty of themselves, even though they really haven't done anything in the league that much, So they kind of have like a chip on their shoulder for whatever reason there. So they're like one of the biggest fan bases that'll clap back at you if you say anything about their team. So it seems like that kind of for there. Charlotte just came into the league this year. They're kind of in the same region, same area as us, but they're kind of growing. Their fan base is pretty cool. So they've been a nicer fan base to us. It's more of a friendly rivalry with them, but like FC Cincinnati will get a little chippy. Atlanta will get a little chippy. Orlando's, like I said, sometimes they just get a little crazy sometimes. But then I'm like, where is this coming from Orlando fans? It's funny because they're because we're a little bit more spread out. So a lot of the rivalry stuff comes via social media. There's like a huge Twitter contention where there's Nashville SC Twitter people that are always retweeting look what this idiot from Orlando said, or and then everybody jumps in and this just gets going for a little while. So it's fun on the internet. And I think we're just now starting to kind of get into the kind of doing the away day kind of culture and going to the games. Right. We got some fans. We got this one guy, his name's Clay Tranium. He has logged thousands upon thousands of miles following Nashville SC, going back to their earliest days when they were still a semi-pro fan-owned team. But I think the bigger fan culture is now getting into more away days. I saw more people, posting that they were going to the matches this year, going to the away matches this year. So I think once we go back to the Eastern Conference, we're playing more regional rivals. It'll pick up even more, and that'll get that more fun, direct communication, direct banter, as opposed to just let's talk trash about each other on the internet.
Do they have a separate away allocation in MLS, or is it all mixed in with the same sort of crowd?
They do, but they're not as strict about policing it in Europe. If you're a member of a supporters group for Nashville SC, they'll send out an email about a month before one of the away matches. Here's a ticket link to buy the tickets for this section that we've been allocated to sit in.
Right.
But we have websites that sell tickets and stuff over here, StubHub, SeatGeek, secondary market tickets.
Yeah.
And there's no restriction on if you're a Nashville SC fan, you can buy any ticket you want at Atlanta United Stadium. So it's not like over in Europe where it's we're going to actually close 2 sections on either side of the away supporters and put a row of police between them in there. So we do have specific seats that we can buy if we want to sit with all the fans traveling. But, if you miss the window or if you decide to go last minute, you can go sit pretty much wherever you want. And you just probably should be on better behavior in that seat than you probably should be if you're with the other fans.
Yes, for your own personal safety, normally. Certainly in this country. Mm-hmm. That's the case, yeah. Fantastic. So yeah, I mean, obviously there is a newness to the league there, but obviously it seems that it's being adopted at a real fast rate. Especially as you're getting almost capacity at the new stadium, which is absolutely astonishing for a team that's been in the league, which for 3 years. What is the overall sports scene in Nashville? Is it dominated by one particular sport, or is it just kind of spread out a little bit more?
It's, I mean, American football is still king here. I mean, we've got the Tennessee Titans here as our local pro team.
Right.
They're getting, 60, almost 70,000 every home game there. There's a lot of college teams here. University of Tennessee has a massive fan base. Everybody here is supports of them. We've got the Predators, which is a local hockey team. They kind of waver a little bit with like the success of the team. Like when the team's hot, the arena's sold out every night. Everybody's there. But I would say the Predators fans, like their hardcore fans, are probably the most passionate fans of any fan base. And because, I'm a Titans fan, so I don't want to hate on other Titans fans, but we've had some lean years where the stadium was a little bit quieter, and even like the fans you think are the biggest fans are just, not supporting the team the way they should. But the Predators fans, their diehard fans are probably the most diehard fans of any sports team in Nashville. So, and like a lot of it's funny because we've taken certain things from the Predators fan base over into Nashville SC. Right. They've had they've got this chant going back forever where after the Predators would score a goal, the whole arena would chant at the other team's goalkeeper. He shoots, he scores, you suck, then chant the goalkeeper's name. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. Nashville SC has adopted that, and they do that at the soccer games now too. So it's Predators kind of set some of the groundwork for some of the stuff we do at Nashville SC now. So their fan base was the original soccer hooligans before we got soccer here. Just kind of put it in a certain way.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that the sports are interacting and you're getting the same stuff there, but it's a Nashville thing that is started. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and you'll see on social media, like they'll all if one of them has a big game, they'll all be posting about it. Like the Titans will post like a post for Nashville SC, Predators will post a post for the Titans. Different players from the teams will go to other games and kind of be special guests. It'll kind of like pump up the crowd and stuff like that. So they do a really good job of interacting and like supporting each other and trying to like just kind of grow overall sports in the city.
That's fantastic. I think that's something we're really missing in Europe. I think, especially Britain, but I think wider Europe as well. We don't have football is everything.
Yeah,
really, it's the national sport, and it's by far the most popular thing. Some people are like cricket, but I don't know what a local cricket team really are. It's like it's done by county rather than city.
Yeah.
Sort of rivalry in that sort of space. Some people all like rugby, but again, not sure who my local rugby team would be. I'm not interested in it because it's all football. But you've already got the US has had a sports culture ingrained for so long. It's great that I think that maybe helps the soccer to settle in.
I think it kind of comes from because one of the things we always heard about like why our teams were behind European teams is just that when everybody in Europe is born, they immediately start playing soccer.
Yeah.
Here it's always been like everything. Everybody played like 4 or 5 sports growing up. So it's more of like you grew up kind of playing 3 or 4 things. So you just kind of grow up knowing all the different sports. It's kind of like I know with some people the biggest hang up with soccer is like it's boring. Nobody ever scores. And it's like, well, if you played the game or if you were involved in the game, you kind of get the intricacies of why there's not so much scoring or the build up that has to go into getting the goal. It's not as simple as kick the ball in the back of a net and then we score a goal. So it's like it's not like I've always heard in Europe everybody plays soccer, so that's just all they know. But over here it's like a little bit more diverse, and like soccer's become bigger now, but like growing up is like you play football, you play baseball, you play basketball, and so it's like you knew everything kind of growing up. And of course that makes everybody over here think they know everything.
Absolutely as well. And I think that there is definitely a growing up with more hand-based sports like basketball, baseball, I suppose what we would call American football as well, the NFL. It's why we've had so much success in the Premier League with American goalkeepers. It's always, the American goalkeepers are really good. But Brad Friedel, Casey Keller, loads of really good US keepers. And it's been like, that's what you import from the US. But actually now, as a Leeds United fan as I am, we've got Tyler Adams, we've got Brendan Aronson. He's our coach. I mean, it's like the American invasion is starting, and Pulisic is a big name in the league. It's being taken a huge amount more seriously here, and like America is really a place we look to actually go. it's very credible now, and I think that's why the MLS is starting to take up as well.
For sure, yeah. I remember when Bob Bradley got a job at Swansea, and he was like dead on arrival. The media was killing him right as soon as he got there. He's like, oh, this dumb American come over and teach us. He's like, he didn't do a good job, but I mean, he was killed before he even got a chance to do a good job. And Jesse Marsh, he got a little bit of the Ted Lasso stuff right out of the gate, but then he kind of proved himself, and that's kind of quieted down a little bit since they've had a little bit of success.
Absolutely. Changing tack slightly on the Nashville tack. I don't know if you've seen my stuff, but I'm an artist. I draw lots of cartoons and that sort of stuff there. What is the Nashville mascot?
So we have a coyote named Tempo. It's kind of one of those things where like so much of the club has been homegrown, natural. Like there's no real reason a coyote should be a mascot of a Nashville team. Like the Titans have a raccoon because that's our state animal. The Predators have a saber-toothed tiger because there were saber-toothed tiger bones found here at one point in time. We have a coyote as our mascot because at one point in time at our convention center downtown where they hold events and stuff like that, somebody went in the bathroom there and there was randomly a coyote that had somehow found its way into the bathroom of the convention center. And this picture of this coyote in the convention center bathroom went viral on the internet and just became this funny thing that everybody in Nashville was like, we got coyotes in the bathrooms and stuff like that. And just one of those just weird, quirky things. And someone at the club just thought it was funny and was like, this can be our thing. We've already got a raccoon over here. We've already got a saber-toothed tiger over here. Coyotes, it makes sense. So we adopted this mascot who's a coyote named Tempo, which Tempo is, tempo of a game, tempo of music. It kind of fits more.
Okay. I was going to ask that. So, that's a really good point. I hadn't made that connection because it's Music City and it's as well. So tempo, of course, it makes a lot of sense. They've done the homework on that one. That's really
yeah. He's been a pretty big hit, because he's always out there. He's got new costumes every game. He's always finding new ways to do little things before the game to get the crowd going. So it's been a funny, quirky thing where it's like, traditional soccer, like, I don't really think we need a mascot, but then he gets out there and you see it and it's like, the history behind it. It's like, this is kind of perfect. This perfect fit for what we need here.
I love that. It's the best origin story I've heard. I mean, this is the first fan interview I've done on this channel, but that is by far the best story, and that's going to take some beating, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it should be like a random picture that went viral on the internet, and they were like, this is funny. Let's just go with this. This is our thing now. So
fantastic. I love that so much. So cool. Right. In the team, we've talked about Mukhtar, we've talked about Zimmerman. Who's an up and coming player that people may not have heard of yet, who you think we've got to really keep an eye on him?
That's a good question. So we've got this player named Scheffelberg who we just acquired in a loan kind of midway through the season from Toronto FC. It was kind of a situation where they signed a couple international players from Italy and they needed to open up some roster spots. Once again, the complicated way that the MLS rosters work, where they signed these other two players, and even though this player's pretty good, they just had to make some shifts to move him around. He's come in and he's really opened up our attack so much because he's a completely different player from anybody we had before, because he's a pacey, like true winger. We have a lot of the forward wide wingers who want to cut inside and play forward, but he's just like a straight burner down the wings, strong left-sided player who gives us something we haven't really had on that side. He's opened up a lot of stuff for us. The reports are pretty much confirming now that he's going to be a permanent signing for us at the end of the season. So he's been a huge addition. We've got a center back, Jack Marr, who was our first draft pick. Once again, like you mentioned earlier, that's something we have that the other leagues don't have around the world. We have a draft where players coming out of the college programs here in the States get drafted into MLS as opposed to just going and signing with whoever they want to. And so he was our first ever draft pick. He's come into his own. He's usually been kind of the guy that comes in when Zimmerman's off on national team duty, or if Zimmerman's got a knock, or if our other center back's got a knock. And he holds his own pretty much. He's not like, quite there where he's going to be your everyday center back, but he's one step away where if, we have to make a roster decision where one of our more veteran players goes, they'll be pretty confident to put him right in, have him be the regular first choice center back moving forward. So those are kind of the two main guys that have kind of shown flashes. They've impacted the team. I think they're going to be here for a while, and, they'll be getting more attention as the next couple seasons go on.
Fantastic. We'll keep an eye on those guys, definitely. The other guy I've heard a lot about is Joe Willis, your goalkeeper, who has had a particularly brilliant time recently, and sort of saving shots with every part of his body and blocking penalties, all sorts. Is he a particular crowd favourite?
Yeah, he's definitely a fan favorite. There's fans who sit directly behind the goal on his side that have like the Joe Willis big head that they'll hold up right behind him. That's one of our. We do. I mean, it's not like the most original chant in the world, but we do have a chant for him whenever he makes a save. The whole stadium chants, "Joe says no, Joe says no, Joe says no." And like you mentioned, he had like one of the best games of the season for a goalkeeper against LAFC this past week, saving 14 shots, which is one of those where it's like, oh, that's awesome. He shaved 14 shots, but at the same time, do we really need to give up 14 shots? So it's kind of like, but yeah, he's been a consistent player for us. Like this season was kind of the first time that he didn't play pretty much all the minutes for us. We have like a younger keeper that we kind of gave a few games to here and there to kind of, because Joe's on the older side, so he's kind of getting up there. He's got maybe, a year or two left in him, but we kind of gave the new keeper a couple of cup games, a couple of league games, kind of test him, see where he was at and stuff like that. But yeah, he's been, that's, him and Hany probably have been two of the best things we've had just because, to not have a steady goalkeeper can be a disaster for a team. So, to have come into the league and have a steady goalkeeper that we really didn't have to worry about that much back there for the first 3 seasons has been huge blessing. And, we saw exactly why in the most recent game against LAFC with him just saving everything they put on him and, securing that win for us to end the season.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll come on to matches against LA in a minute, but I wanted to just quickly take an aside to mention the jersey that you have on, which is one of the most exceptional things I've ever seen. It's that's a Nashville one as well. I couldn't quite see the back.
Yeah, this is
a keeper's jersey, or is that like an away one? Where's the provenance of that?
So MLS has done a good job of tricking us fans into buying multiple jerseys a season. Soccer's I've said this multiple times. American sports are kind of behind soccer in this, where it's like every team in soccer puts out a brand new jersey every season. It's as a Manchester United fan, it's the same red jersey every season. But I'm an idiot, so I drop $100 more on that jersey every season. Do the same with Nashville SC. The trick that MLS has figured out is they'll put out these. This is a warm-up jersey that they wore for like a special occasion. So this is like the Juneteenth warm-up jersey that they put up. So it's a little bit cheaper than like the real jersey. It's not like, but I ended up buying like 3 of these. There was like a 4th of July Independence Day jersey they had. They had a Juneteenth one. They had a cancer awareness one. They had like a military support week one. So there's been about 6 or 7 throughout the season where it's been like, we're wearing this during warm-ups to support this cause or bring attention to this cause. And almost every time I've been like, I like the way that looks. I'm going to spend another $70, $80 on a jersey I don't need.
Absolutely.
But American sports are a little bit behind on that because, like, NFL, baseball, the idea of like, let's just put out a slightly different jersey every year and get these people to spend $100 more every season. Soccer's got that figured out a little bit. But yeah, this was a
on this. I think we're going to be putting out these special edition ones for a one-off match or for a month, that sort of thing. I think that's going to go crazy over here because that is such a good idea, and I love that. And I think if you can pull out something really kind of wild and out there, then that's a brilliant thing to do. But I also think that looking at the shirts across the league, they are of very high quality. They seem to be designed to a very, very high standard. I would say higher than the Premier League standard. Like you say. We've got a red jersey for the Man Uniteds every year, but these ones have got like intricate designs. There's beautiful colours and patterns in them. I think looking across them, I'm like, this is a much higher standard. I don't know why that is, but I want to buy them all.
Yeah, I think we have the benefit of that. The MLS in certain ways operates as a single entity, so they've got a across the board deal with Adidas, where Adidas manufactures all the uniforms, whereas over in Europe, each team has its own individual thing. There has been some criticism with some fans. Sometimes Adidas gets a little lazy with it sometimes, but then it just depends on team to team. Look at Portland, the Portland Timbers. Every year they have some crazy new insane design. Other teams just have a black jersey and a white jersey. So it kind of goes from team to team. But like you said, our new jersey this year, our home jersey, we've got a pattern down the side that's a music can't think of the word for it. It's supposed to be the vibrational frequency of a music note or something like that. So it's trying to once again tie into the music of Nashville and stuff like that. So they have some good ones, they have some bad ones. It kind of just depends on the fan base. Yes, I liked all ours. I liked last year. We kind of had some throwback ones. So, but I think having Adidas as the sponsor is good because it's arguably I think would be the top 2 brand that you can get. I mean, you look over in Europe, you've got teams that have like brands you've never heard of over here, at least, where it's like, who made that shirt? But so having Adidas as like a league-wide partner is a pretty good thing. But they do get criticized sometimes, that they get a little bland sometimes. But we've been pretty lucky here in Nashville. They've had some good ones for us.
Yeah, I think that it's certainly Adidas going to over here get a real. I think the criticism of them, and they are iconic, and they've got the good sleeves and that sort of stuff. They're always looking good, but yeah, for a few different teams, depending on if it's a smaller team, not so much of a fan base, they'll just give a template and just stick a new badge on it, and you go, well, that's kind of lazy, and that, I think that that carries through as well. So just going back to where we are at the moment. So just for context, obviously people will be watching this video at various different times. We are in October 2022. The regular season's just finished. You're looking into the playoffs, as you mentioned earlier on. You've got a match against, is it LA Galaxy you've got up first?
Yep, we got Galaxy coming up this weekend. Yep.
Fantastic. And you have won and drawn against them recently, is that right?
Yeah, I think we lost one and won one against them. Okay. Most recent game was a tie here at Geodes Park about a month and a half ago.
Good stuff. So how are you feeling going into that game? Obviously, that's the first hurdle towards the MLS Cup.
It's interesting. We're going to be at LA, but for whatever reason, as nice as Geodes Park is, as beautiful as a new stadium it is, we've been better on the road this season than we've been at home for whatever reason. I don't know if we started because the stadium wasn't ready at the start of the season, so we started the season with 8 straight road games. So I don't know if we just got into a rhythm where that was comfortable to us to play on the road, and we just never got out of that mindset. But we've been better on the road, and I think the other thing we kind of have going for us when it comes to like playoffs is we're a team that's built to defend. We're built to not give up goals. So in knockout tournament playoff style games, we're pretty well set up to where if we can defend well, Hany Mukhtar breaks on the counter, steals a goal here and there, we're pretty well set up. We have not been the best team in the world at penalty shootouts. We've had some notoriously bad penalty shootouts in our history, so we need to get a counterattack goal somewhere in there. But our defense, we pretty much hold together pretty well on the road to where we can not let a team get away from us. But Galaxy's an interesting team because we have a lot more transfers happen in the middle of our season than I think happen in Europe, because our middle season transfer window is the summer window, which is the big transfer window, across the world. So you look at a team like LA Galaxy about a month and a half ago, they weren't even in the playoffs. And now they're, the 4th seed and they're getting a home game. Their big deal was they brought in Ricky Puig from Barcelona.
Wow. Yeah.
Young, talented player, about a year or two ago, he was supposed to be one of the next great players in the world.
Scouted all around the Premier League,
and then he got passed by like Gavi and Pedri and some players there, and he kind of fell out of favor there. Yeah, I think he's one kind of similar, a little bit younger, but I think he's in a similar spot to Hany Mukhtar, where he kind of lost his way a little bit, and MLS was where somewhere he could come, probably make a lot of money. I'm sure LA Galaxy's paying him a lot of money, so he can come here for a year or two, make a lot of money, remind everybody why he was supposed to be one of the next great players in the world, and then he'll go back to Europe eventually. But he's kind of changed them a lot, because the first game I remember one of the games early in the season, they were kind of really relying on Chicharito. They've got him. He's still a good player, especially like in our league. But Ricky Puig, when we played them about a month and a half ago, he just controlled the game like in a way you don't really see that often in MLS. It's a lot more direct, a lot more defensive, and he was kind of that controlling player you don't see on a lot of MLS teams, where he's able to get on the ball constantly, distribute constantly, set up constant chances for them. So he makes them a lot more dangerous than they were previously. But once again, Gary Smith is very well known for being a smart coach, and when it comes to setting up shop, it maybe gets criticized a little bit for parking the bus sometimes. I don't necessarily think he parks the bus. I think that's a little bit further than what he does, but I would say he sets up his defense tactically well, is the way I would describe it. So it's going to be a tough game because, Chicharito's a good player, Ricky Puig's a good player, but we're also one of those teams, for whatever reason, we seem to play better teams tougher than we play like lesser teams. Like we played Houston Dynamo 2 weeks ago at home, who's one of the worst teams in MLS this season, and they came in and beat us 2-0 at home. Then a week later, we beat LAFC, the best team in the league, 1-0 at their home. So we're one of those rise to the occasion teams where the better the team we're playing is, the better we seem to play. So it'll be a good game. I think we kind of go as Hany Mukhtar goes ultimately. So if he can get on the ball, if he can create some things, we'll have a good shot.
Well, he's in a rich vein of form, so I think that gives you every chance on that front. Yeah, that's pretty. Matt, thank you so much for being with me today. That has been absolutely fantastic. It's been absolutely fascinating to hear about Nashville. I think they're a team that has real personality, and I think that they are, despite being a young team, they seem like one that's been there for a very long time. They've got a really lot of good things. Really seem really established and like they're going places. So that is absolutely fantastic. Please plug everything you want to plug. Your online presence, your YouTube, your Instas, podcast, anything you like. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much everything I do under the moniker Uncle Mad. That's MADD. It's not Mothers Against Drunk Driving. If I ever get big enough, they'll sue me, I'm sure. But that just goes from like a history of like I have a history where my friends say I just get too angry 2 times. So, but yeah, it's Uncle Mad on most. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. As you mentioned, I've got a YouTube channel. I do match day vlogs when I go to the games at Nashville SC. Every once in a while, I'll jump on and do like a game preview if feel like I've got some deep insight that I want to share into a game or something like that. But half the time it's just me and my nephew like having fun or bouncing around sometimes. So it's a little bit of everything on there. But yeah, I'm on Twitter. I occasionally tweet out stupid thoughts about soccer on there. And Instagram, I'll post whatever I'm doing, and YouTube, and it's all Uncle Mad with 2 Ds.
Fantastic. I'll put all those links will be in the description. So if anybody wants to find Matt, then you know where to go. But all I can say now is thank you so much. You've been my first guest. You've been absolutely amazing today. So thank you so much for your time, Matt.
Appreciate it. Happy to do it.
Cheers.